Bora, we haven't done a Q&A episode for a long time, but we get all these questions. One of the most common questions we get from especially Sri Lankan listeners is that how the cricket pathway in Victoria works or in Australia works. We had two Sri Lankans playing for Victoria this season already, Chandrasinghe and Kerlepota. They both represented Victoria. So there's a lot of interest among Sri Lankans and migrant communities about the pathways to play for Victoria, then go on to play for Australia. So we found a perfect guy to talk about that. He's been involved with junior cricket for a long time. Our good friend Alex Lewis from Preston. We are just about to start a cricket season here in Victoria, and Alex is the director of cricket at Preston Cricket Club. How is Preston preparing for the season, Alex?
Really well, actually. Really well. The numbers are really solid. The players are really engaged, and the list is actually looking really strong. We're really very optimistic for what we can achieve this year.
I think there's a Sri Lankan connection out there at Preston as well. Any new players? I know there's an exciting coaching signed up as well. So you want to share some of the recruits for the season or a bit of insight?
We seem to be very lucky at Preston. We obviously had Chaminda, and we've improved upon him with some better human beings and some higher quality people. Sorry, Chubby.
I can't swear on this podcast, so I'm going to keep
No, look, we actually, Michael Hayes, who's the president, who I work very closely with and have done for the life of my time at the club. We say it all the time. We're very privileged to have a connection to the Sri Lankan community, both through Chaminda as well as Mahesh and the players that have played for us in that preceding time after Chaminda. We've got Imal, who plays for the Qatar international side, which is very exciting. We got to watch some of his games. I think he was playing the Canada circuit or Canada round robin tour there, and it was really nice to be able to watch him play. And he really loves to hit the ball, so it's going to be really complementing our list most certainly. And we've got Kanishka who played for us in their T20 a few years ago. He was playing for a local club on synthetic, and then we said, "Oh, look, come be a guest at one of our T20 games," and we loved him. I think what's really important about the Sri Lankan community is that I think our club just resonates both on a playing level, but also a social level. And Kanishka's no different. He's absolutely simulated. He had a fielding session on Saturday. It was his first real crack at running a session. He had the 1s and 2s squad, and I've been raving about him for the last 24 hours. I can't tell you how thrilled it is being, the senior coach, and then have someone who can, at this level, it's difficult to find people who can actually do the job, And Chummy will know I'm a bit of a control freak. So when I hand over a job and it gets done well, that it comes with a fairly level of high praise. So I'm very excited to have both of those players. They complement our list really well.
No, that's awesome. I mean, this episode where we are trying to cover how we are going to prepare for a cricket season as a cricketer, and how to set goals for the season. For a let's say a young cricketer who's just starting his cricket career, maybe in a local club, how should he or she prepare, and how should they set their goals for a season? Because you've been working with almost all the age groups for the last maybe 10 years, maybe more. You want to tell us a bit about how you go about that?
So setting goals for young people is really simple. You've got to sit down with the player, and you've got to first off understand what it is that they actually like about the game and what it is that they enjoy about the game. I think one of the challenges in cricket is that we can spend a lot of time focusing on what we need to improve upon and get better at and that kind of stuff. And there's not enough time focusing on, what is it that draws you to the game? And often that's a really good starting point If a player likes, I really like hitting the ball, or I love scoring runs, or I love, being out there with my mates. And sometimes it's really that simple, just to be out there with their mates. So, and then from there, you're able to ask leading questions like, if at the end of the year, what would be a good year for you? If it's March 31, the season's over, give us some statistics if you're statistic driven, or if it's, results driven in terms of, we won a flag, or, really simple questions to us, but sometimes to younger players, they don't really think about their game that way. I think we take for granted that we've been in the game a long time and it becomes second nature to us. But to them, it's asking really open-ended questions like, what do you think this year should be like? How do you think you'll go this year? And then you just write that down on a piece of paper. And then for me, I just try to extract the things that they emotively connect with. It could be, I want to be really consistent. I get a lot of joy from being consistent. Or some of my spinners, I get a lot of joy out of that feeling you get when you rip the ball. Even though that they might not land 6 out of 6, they still get their joy because they're giving it a rip. And then as you work through that conversation, and ultimately you're just trying to get to know them and you're trying to build a rapport, you can really get to the nitty gritty of, okay, well, if you want to be consistent, let's break it down into some really simple process-based goals. So a process-based goal being something that requires action and that is achievable by you and in control by you. So it could be simple as, I want to be able to bat 50 overs. Okay, well, how fit are you? Okay, well, let's come up with a plan every week. All right, what's your longest distance you can run now, or what's the fastest 2K you can do now, or let's build upon that. Fast bowlers can say, I want to bowl quick. Okay, what are you doing for your strength work? Have you got a bowling coach? Do you have someone that you can connect with? And I think for any young player aspiring to get to the next level, I think they need 2 things. They need a person that they consider as a mentor, right? Yep. Not necessarily in the same sport, not necessarily even in the same, it doesn't have to be a sport at all. Just someone who's successful in that you admire, and they say, okay, well, in my world, I define you as successful, right? Can I talk to you about my journey about, becoming a better cricketer? Yeah. And often those parallels are very similar. The disciplines, the emotional regulation, all that kind of stuff. It's all very similar across all fields. And then you need a coach. You need someone who can give you the technical feedback, who you trust. If you can lock in those 2 things as well as your process-based goals, match them up with your outcome-based goals. So like, I want to score 350s this year. I want to score my first 100 this year. I want to score things that aren't necessarily in your control, but you're working towards something. Okay. And then the process-based goals are the day-to-day stuff. You want to be a better batsman? Every week, you've got to find an hour a week to get some throwdowns or some underarms or something that's away from the club. And I call that unseen hours. And successful players in any sport, I don't care what it is you got to nail your unseen hours. So if that's not part of your goal setting process, right, and part of your goal setting plan, you really are, you're limiting your growth. You're going to grow at the same rate as everyone else that trains for 2 hours on a Thursday and 2 hours on a Tuesday and plays 6 hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm getting excited with a lot of questions that are coming through just through the juniors. So I'll try to contain it and let you guide me through as well, Alex. Juniors, I mean, you would have come across it as well, are very excited, motivated to play cricket. I guess exposing them into the training elements is a big challenge on its own. How do you manage that through, I guess, a pre-season? We've all been through a pre-season. I think that's kind of the early capture where you can help structure in these habits. Is there anything that you, as a club or you or personally work on certain things to help drive that?
So Chummy would know we have an academy program at Preston that I began 10 years ago now. I think this is the 10th season. And one of the things we started with was under 15s. Then we moved to under 17s girls because we wanted to contribute to the female space. And then we saw that the kids that were 15, all right, would play our JG Craig competition, our formerly Hatch competition in the VSDCA, but then they would have nowhere to go. Okay, and we wanted to hold on to these kids. We wanted to try and keep them in our system. So we created an under 19s program. And what the under 19s program, which is a real, I look back on it now and I go, secretly genius, right? Not tooting my own horn, but I am, right? But secretly genius, because what you're doing is you're creating an environment where you've got older guys, 18, 19-year-olds, because it was 19 and under, working with 16, 17-year-olds. And what that did was, we all know that there's a lot of difference between a 16-year-old and a 19-year-old. You know, that's 3 years of your life, but you play cricket with a 16-year-old, you're playing cricket with a 16-year-old, you're playing cricket with a 19, you're playing cricket with an adult. And so what happened is you had this period of 6 weeks where we would cross-pollinate the current list of those players, right? And the players that we want to hope folding into our senior program. So that ultimately created the best thing which you can have at this level is familiarity. Yeah, you want those younger guys to come into the senior system and go, oh, I know that person. Not that you're ever going to talk to them, because 16-year-olds don't talk, right? But I know that person, I feel safe. I know the head coach, I feel safe. And that's ultimately what it is. You want players to feel safe in an environment, and you want them to feel welcomed. And then once you've broken down all of those barriers, then you can worry about the cricket. Because if you don't break down those barriers, right, then they are petrified of judgment. They are anxious of performance. And I'm talking about, I've got young players who play a bad shot, look around the room and go, oh, did anyone see that? Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I play a bad shot every time I hit the ball. So, you can't have that kind of anxiety going around the room, So you got to try and create an environment where you're talking to them and you're getting to know them. Oh, what school do you go to? Oh, what do you bowl? What club do you come from? What's your favorite Marvel film? Like it's so important to build those connections. And as a leader at Preston, the one thing I think I do really relatively well is whenever we have full club training, right? So for the first 3 or 4 sessions of this year, we had full rotation of all nets. So every single player will rotate from the lower 11 net up to the first grade net. Yeah. And essentially what that meant was you had to get to know each other, right? And you had to break down the barriers between and I guess humanize some of the older guys for the younger people. Yeah, it's the way I see it is it's that old adage of the spider in the corner of the room, right? The spider being the young kid and us adults being the person in the room. We're both scared of each other, despite, and it takes a leader to have empathy to understand that the senior guys need to be coerced and encouraged to talk to the younger players because they don't feel like they connect, and the younger players are intimidated by the senior guys. So it's important as a leader that you break down those barriers and realise that Michael Stretton, who was our first 11 captain, played in Sydney, first grade, unbelievable cricketer, has a presence around him for these younger guys because you set it up and go, oh, that's Michael Stretton, he's the first 11 captain. And trust me, that's enough. And then you go through his resume and you go, oh, I better not make a mistake in front of him. No, make a mistake in front of him. He'll encourage it. Yeah. Just go talk to him. Create those environments where you break down those barriers.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think it's the easiest way to get the best out of a player is you get him to coach another one. Then you think about your game a lot, and you don't want to do a mistake. Once you start giving tips or recommendations or whatever, then you don't want to look bad. So in back of your mind, you want to do well as well. So that's, I think, one of the best things as a player, developing player, one of the best things you have to do is, get a youngster under your wing and give him some tips and give some coaching.
I heard at the start of the discussion, we heard some of the key signings Preston has done, and I think has brought about some more a new outlook into the season, I guess. Going into recruitment, I guess something that our listeners would like to know as much as I'm keen to know is how do you structure on recruitment, whether it's do you restructure the clubs, how you want to play it, and you go out to market to look for players, or is that what's working for Preston, or for in this case Preston, as a club, as a team, or how you playing, and now you kind of want a similar skill set of players coming on board, how, or do you completely revamp it?
I'd like to tell you that we've got an unbelievable recruiting team and we've got an unlimited resources of players to choose from. Therefore, we've got very clear, we need this bowler, we need this player, we need this, we need blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, at a local level, and that we are, whilst we do, spend money on our cricket department, we don't spend anywhere near the kind of money a premier club or even some other sub-district clubs do. So to answer that question, I've got to talk about list management and an overall philosophy on the kind of list we want and the kind of way that we run our 11s, because that helps shape what we want at the first grade level. Yeah. Yep. So from the academy right up until our first grade, there's this, in my mind, and I've been running a lot of list management for the last 10 years, is you got to have a view of who's where, doing what, and who's coming through and who's likely to leave, who's going to go to Premier, who's going back to local, so on and so forth. If you don't have an understanding of those kind of movements, it's very hard to know what to recruit for at the top level. Yep. On the flip side of that is you've got to work with your first 11 captain and your leaders to go, well, what does the side need? And then let's see if we can find that as well. But the problem is you can do all of that planning, but it's sad to say because, there's only two things that players will look for, right, to come to a sub-district club: success and money. They want to move to a club that ultimately is on the verging of success or is already successful. Okay. Yeah. Or you've got to pay the sort of the tax on top to get a really good player to the club. And the one thing that we value is that once we've got players to the club, we generally keep them for a period of time, as long as they buy into our values, which is more community-based values. Yep. We care very little about rephrase that. We care about performances, but if you're not really buying into the community, it's a really hard way to sort of connect and enjoy each other's company, because it's a long season if you don't buy into that. But to pivot back, we recruit essentially myself, Hazy, and a few other people. We recruit basically on what we feel that we need. And then once we've got the feelers out there, I can't tell you how often we end up with something else. we might be looking for, like this year, we're looking for a fast opening bowler, ended up with a keeper. We had an off spinner last year. We've ended up with an off spinner this year that bats in the middle order. Like unfortunately we get what we're given, and we have to negotiate on how that fits with the list and go from there.
I understand that no one has unlimited resources to bring in players, but some of the clubs in sub-district seem to do that. It's really hard to succeed because you play good teams in your group, and you play the other groups every other year, right? So then you are in South Group this season, and
that's the toughest group.
Yeah, so how do you think they manage to do it? Like it's really
well. It's a very complicated question, because you're a victim to your geography sometimes, and cricket in the north is battling against soccer, tennis, basketball, football. It's and the population density for players who want to play cricket is a lot less than in the south and the southeast, and even in the west. It is a growth corridor, but by virtue of being a growth corridor means it's starting from a lower base and it is growing. And so the upward pressure from young talent means that dilutes through the rest of the clubs, to the rest of the grades. So then your second tier talent, as it were, your talented local guys that haven't played the first class or whatever, they take a little longer to develop, right? And trust me, I've said it all pre-season. We're at the beginning of a 5-year window to win a first 11 flag because we've got a lot of that talent are at 21, 22 now. We've put a lot of time and investment into them. On the flip side of that is administrations and the active nature of those administrations determine the success of the club, right? And I'm not saying that we have a bad administration. We've got a ripping administration. But sponsorship has been something that we've been really hamstrung by over the last few years because we just haven't had enough people on the committee. But in majority, if you're spending more time trying to stay above water, there's no way you can paddle in any particular direction. Whereas now we've got some amazing people on the committee, and last year was our biggest fundraising year. Yeah. Now, are we going to see results from that financial benefit straight away? God, I hope so. But being a realist, it's going to take consistent effort from the committee and the wider Preston community to keep bringing in that money so we can keep supporting the list. And that's not just with the international first class players. That's providing the coaching and the equipment and the facilities and the pre-seasons to help develop the list. I'll put it to you this way: in the north, for the last 25 years, there's been one indoor centre, one dedicated cricket indoor centre, and that was Sean Brown's. Yeah. Now there's two. And now cricket's starting to really push forward. I remember when Cutting Edge opened, and I thought, gee, it's going to be quiet in winter. Now they barely close. Like, they've got full bookings almost every night, almost every lane for 3 to 4 hours, even in the winter, The growth of development cricket, because of the centres putting more time into cricket, is an indication from a macro point of view that the region's going to start going north. Mm-hmm. So, it's like, put it this way: if you fish in a pond with not a lot of fish, it's going to take you longer to get where you need to go. Whereas now, I think the next 10 years, 15 years of cricket in the north is going to be pretty special. There's a lot of talent. I mean, our Falcons squad in the under 16s in the last few years have been really, really strong. Really, really strong. And that's a really good indication of where we are against the rest of the regions. And if they're competitive, that means that the region itself is actually pretty strong. So we're going to start seeing benefits of that. So that's what I know I was a bit of rambling on there, but for me, those questions they have multiple angles to kind of be aware of. Otherwise, you're creating a pretty simple answer for what is a very complicated question.
No, there's no silver bullet to the recruit.
No, there really isn't.
Problem.
No.
Yeah, that is true.
Alex, something I'd like to pick your brains on and a bit of direction as well. For migrant families who are new to the country, or even parents who would like a bit of direction on what are the pathways for juniors to be part of. I mean, you mentioned the under 16s rep or the teams that are represented as we go along. In Sri Lanka, we are a school cricket based structure where the juniors will play in competitive cricket within schools, and that becomes your selection ground. And then you get fast track. I mean, in the past, we've had some school cricketers playing for Sri Lanka. In Melbourne or Victoria base, what's a bit of advice to a parent so they have a bit of idea, okay, this is a good structure, this is the pathway for a talented kid through the system. How does it work out here, or what's your bit of insights into that?
Okay, so the best way I can answer that is we're a club-based system.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're also a school-based system. Okay. So your tier 1 and tier 2 schools, your grammar schools, they've all got cricket departments. right? And so they'll mandate on a Saturday that players play right up until year 11. They play for the school, which means they can't play for a club, right? And a lot of premier club systems, right? So the premier cricket, so you're one tier below state, okay? They will have connections with those schools and help find players through those schools. That's one way, right? The traditional way for me and 80% of other people who didn't have that afforded to them was you have to play for your club. Your club nominates you for your association. So the really complex part about cricket in Victoria is how many layers of cricket there are. Okay, and I think it's also a positive, because if you're not ready as a cricketer at 14 for a rep program, right, you're not out of them. You still play state, because you'll find your way into a premier club via a sub-district program or a VTCA program. Yeah, but it is club-based. So you'll go through your local club, which is called the Victorian Metro Cricket Union, right? At that level, you've got association areas. So they're little areas like DVCA, Diamond Valley Cricket Association, which spans about a radius of maybe 5 to 10 Ks in every direction, right? The North Metro, same tier of competition, but they've got their own association. And what happens is the VMCU will run a carnival, okay? So you get nominated by your club to represent that association. So North Metro, Eastern, Diamond Valley, for example, right? And that's on the 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s in those age groups, right? From there, you get nominated to represent the region, which is a cluster of associations.
Right.
Okay. Right. So my region is called the Falcons. Yeah. And the Falcons is the North Metro, DVCA, and some parts of another association. It's more postcode based, right? Nice. And that's called the YPL.
Yeah.
All right. So the YPL is the Youth Premier League, and every state has a Youth Premier League, and all these regions, so Falcons, Inner East, all that kind of stuff, they'll all play off. Okay. And then you'll get nominated for a state side. Yeah. And it's usually in Victoria, state metro, so Victorian metropolitan, right? And that's from the 12s, 14s, and 16s, and I think 17s or 18s, right? Yeah. And then Vic Country. Yeah. So it's a metro and a country. All right. And then from there, they'll have an actual state team,
Victorian.
All up. But I'm actually pretty sure in the unders age groups, all the juniors, they keep it as metro, and then they go to a national carnival, which is usually played in somewhere like a Brisbane or an Adelaide, where they've got multiple grounds, first class grounds in one area, and they can facilitate all of the state sides, right? So that's the pathway, as it were. Now, to answer your question, the simplest way to get your player into a representative program is talk to the club, talk to the association, and don't be shy doing it, because often associations are crying out for players, right? Because it's difficult. It's in the middle of January, post Christmas, people are away, and you still want to find the best talent. Okay. And the hard part is, I'm the coach in the 16s in the DVCA this year. And the one thing that, I want more players to look at. I want to give them the experience of rep trials, but also you want to find the best talent to put the best team on the park. And sometimes that information does get a little lost, because people are scared. Oh, I don't know if reps for me. I don't know. You got to trust the coaches, trust the program, and put yourself out there. Contact the Instagram page, the Facebook page of the association, and even find out who your regional manager is for Cricket Victoria.
Yep.
Yeah. Our region is Josephine Turner. She's a ripper, right? Get in contact with her. Google it. Regional manager, Northern Falcons, or regional manager, and you just say whatever association you're in, and you'll be able to find it. Their job is to help you navigate cricket in that region.
Interesting. It's been a good chat, Alex. I think we've learned the different pathways through especially for juniors coming through, because it gets a bit lost in, because you're not sure which club you're aligned to, or which, like I say, in the association to, have a bigger picture. And I liked how you touched base about having that under 19s program to capture that players who might be confused or not sure where they're heading towards, to rope them in, and might be that late developers through the sport. And again, a good insight into how you prepare with goal settings. I guess we are early part of our season. Each club keen to get their first round out of the way. So wish you well for the season ahead. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I think a lot of questions popping up as we talk along, but being mindful of time might be a good way to close it off for today. Once again, for our listeners out there, if they want to get in touch with you or know more about you, where can they reach you, Alex? And if you want to share a bit of your background into that aspect.
That's a really good question. I think contact Preston. Just contact Preston Cricket Club, and they'll put you onto me, or I think that's really the only way you're going to be able to get in contact with me at the moment. So,
no, thanks. Like it was really good. We should get you back. We'll have to get you back, maybe in a couple of months to have a chat again. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, mate. Any background info on how Vida was at Preston? Anything that, you might have any habits of picking the end up or anything?
Sorry, what was that?
Boy, that was a good boy.
Any stories of Vida?
Nothing.
Oh, any stories of Vida? Oh, we're still recording?
Oh, there we go. Doesn't matter.
Nah, look, you know what? I was talking to Imal about this the other day, and just saying how when I first met Chummy, when I first heard of Chummy, I started getting name anxiety for one thing, because there's no way in this world. I've known him. How long have I known you for now, Chummy? Probably what? Almost. I reckon it's more than that. It's almost 8 years. 6 to 8 years, right? I don't even know, right? And to this day, I still can't spell it. Still can't spell his last name, right? But I was talking to Imal and just saying this is the quality of the guy, right? Rocks up to literally flies in, right, the day of our practice match, drives up to Lambert where we're playing a practice match, okay? Didn't have to, but did. Stayed the night anyway, okay? And I knock on the door. He's rooming with another guy called Dallas. Yeah, West Indian guy, right? They're both in towels because they've just got out of the shower. And I look on the bench, and there's two 2-liter bottles, right, of scotch, right? And I've gone, Chummy, where'd you get that from? It's like, oh, duty free. And I've gone, and you brought it up? Yeah, why not? We'll go through one tonight. And I'm pretty sure he poured 3 glasses. And I'm pretty sure Dallas didn't drink at the time, and he had a drink. Yeah. And from that moment, I've gone, that because you don't know. Like sometimes you're really unsure about the cultural connection, and you're unsure about whether you're going to. And also my first year of senior coaching, that was really quite a daunting experience for me, having an international player. So so we bonded and connected over that, and the rest is really history. Didn't really look back after that.
Yeah, Sri Lankan loves a scotch, that's for sure. So
I think that's why we're holding on to that connection. I think that's it.